Welcome, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. This is the Reclamation Project, where we believe in no soul left behind. We're here to provide a platform for both believers and non believers to ask the tough questions, even when they're controversial, seemingly blasphemous, or otherwise offensive. It is our mission to give answers that are rooted in science and evidence where at all possible, but most certainly objective ones that aren't based or depend on our feelings. At the end of the day, it's our hope that you'll achieve a better understanding of God, which we know improves your perception, hence also your impression of Him.
Amen.
After all, understanding is a difference maker and a deal breaker. And well, if you're already a believer, welcome to the opportunity of perhaps relearning some things in the Bible. So we thank you and we're just happy that you've tuned in. For better or worse, revolutionary AI has made a resounding entrance. And as we catch a glimpse of a world reminiscent of a Matrix movie just before the takeover, do we reject AI or do we utilize it? And how would Jesus navigate our world in 2023? Well, the panel is here. And they're going to share their thoughts and insights on the ever-evolving landscape now intertwined with the formidable presence of artificial intelligence. My brother, we're back once again.
Amen, amen.
Just you and me at the moment. And speaking of formidable presence intertwined in our everlasting or our ever-evolving landscape, it was ChatGPT that wrote this teaser for today.
Wow.
So speaking of artificial intelligence and its ability and how it's affecting our world, well, guess what? Artificial intelligence, AI, ChatGPT to be specific, wrote the teaser for today. It was not written by human creativity. In fact, the last few teasers for TRP have been written by AI or ChatGPT.
Mercy.
And man, ChatGPT, AI, that level AI is something else, man. What are your thoughts? Well, first I want to ask is, are you excited about AI? And feel free to turn up your nose at that and go ahead and get started on a tirade. But give me your thoughts. Tell me what you think. Are you excited about this idea of AI?
Stan, if I'm being honest, I have mixed emotions about it. I think that I would describe it as being both excited but frightened at the same time. And the reason why I say both excited and frightened, I'm excited, one, because, you and I, we're in the same age group. And so with that being said, I think I can speak for both of us when I say that as children, we imagined, but we didn't think it quite possible that today could actually arrive. Meaning that the cartoons of our day, the television shows of our day that perpetuated a future such as this, to us for a long time seemed like a future that would never come to fruition. And so fast forward to 2023, we are here.
Indeed.
With that said, I'm frightened because as I've sampled the capabilities of AI, it really allowed me to understand that today's world is a world that invests deeply in information. So there's almost nothing that we do on a daily basis. And I do mean
Mm-hmm.
almost nothing, short of prayer.
Mm-hmm.
There's almost nothing that we do on a daily basis that does not involve some level of information gathering. And so, for me personally, the one thing that I learned just dealing with, this transition from the days of analog to the digital age to, this entire information age is that um, once you put your name out there, once you put your information out there, once you put your opinion out there,
Mm-hmm.
it's out there for good. And so now, you know, algorithms can look at your past records and anticipate what your thinking patterns are going to be. You think about Google, you think about these other information giants, and you wonder why in your inbox you have invitations to subscribe to things that
Mm-hmm.
you've never even solicited, but it's because that information has been used
Mm-hmm.
to understand that, hey, this may be a potential buyer, right? So how does all that, to put a bow on it, how does all that have to do with what we're here to discuss today? AI is just that on steroids.
Hmm.
Again, the
Hmm.
frightening part. Let me just get on into it in terms of me. I I was playing around with AI, for lack of better terms. Um, and so what I did was I solicited AI's response to this question involving Matthew 24, chapter 24, verses 20 through 26. And so what I asked directly was in ChatGPT, what role, if any, will AI play in the events described here? And so I fed AI that text. It's a little lengthy, but it's necessary for context. And I'll tell you beforehand, um, it's frightening that an entity that is not actually real, it's not a person,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Could actually express some level of reverence. That's a part of the frightening part. Now, here it is. It says, this is at ChatGPT speaking. The passage you quoted from the Gospel of Matthew contains teachings attributed to Jesus discussing future events and the presence of false messiahs and prophets. It does not explicitly mention the role of AI or any specific technology. However, it is
Hmm.
worth noting that advancements in technology, including artificial intelligence, can have an influence on various aspects of society, including the spread of information, communication, listen to this, people, and the potential for deception. AI can be used to create deep fake videos or generate false narratives, which could contribute to the deception mentioned in the passage. Mm.
Hmm.
In the context of the passage, the emphasis is on discernment, caution, and not easily being swayed by claims of the appearance or location of a Messiah or prophet. While technology can be a tool used for both positive and negative purposes, the responsibility lies, this is AI warning us, y'all. The responsibility lies with individuals to critically evaluate information, seek truth, and not be misled by deceptive signs or messages. It is important to interpret biblical passages within their religious and historical context. And while AI may play a role in the events of the future, the passage you quoted does not specifically address it. This AI giving us a word.
Wow. Wow. So, I couldn't help but recognize and hear immediately this sense of awareness that AI seems to have about a downside to itself. So you already mentioned that it seems to be talking about itself and warning us about some of these deceptions. I just find that this whole idea that AI is warning you seems to suggest that it has a sense of awareness about not only its own potential for evil, but the fact that humans probably want to know this. So why would AI warn you unless it had some idea that, hey, you actually might want to pay attention to this. You actually might want to know this. Let me share this with you. So for me, I'm just like, wow, I'm blown away. We haven't even gotten to what it just said or given its thoughts on the scripture that you shared with it, but just its overall awareness. Now that leads me to the question. I first asked you what you were excited about, or if you were excited about it. I'll just share mine. Like yourself, I'm a bit conflicted. I have mixed emotions. I am excited. If I'm honest, I'll say that first. That I am excited, but I'm also, I'm a bit fearful because I don't know what's coming next. And the unknown always invokes fear in humans. We like to know what's coming. And when you don't know what's coming down the pipeline, that invokes a level of fear. So I'm both excited and, I have a sense of anxiety towards this whole technology. So that's my response to are you excited? I am. But it's like, okay, we're about to get on a roller coaster that I have not been on. I haven't looked at it. In fact, that we were just at took the kids we were in LA for a wedding, and then we made a last minute decision to go to Knott's Berry Farm, and we were standing in line for one of the roller coasters. It's called Ghost Rider, and we could see the front of the roller coaster, but we couldn't see the back because it kind of meandered around the park a little bit. And typically, before we get on roller coasters, we can see what it's going to do. And that's how a lot of people make their decisions before they decide to get on it, is whether or not they whether or not they see something that's going to make them decide not to get on it. But for this one, we couldn't see it. We had to experience it once we got on it. That was both a part of the thrill and the anxiety. And so when you think about AI and what's coming down the pipeline, we see the potential of it today. It's exciting. Well, it's exciting for me, it's exciting for many because of its capabilities, but there's that level of fear because it's like, okay, well, what's next? There's an unknown. We don't know what's gonna happen. Pastor Trey, glad you joined us. The question that's on the floor at the moment is, are you excited about AI? What do you
Hey,
think?
everybody. Yes, good to see you, brethren. East Coast meets West Coast.
Yes, sir.
Amen.
Yes, sir. In the flesh, in the digital flesh.
Praise God. Praise God. One thing, unfortunately, all inventions of men have been used for both good and evil. There's not one invention that mankind has come up with that has not been used for both. So I just want I'm gonna put that out there. If people had enough reason and enough of a moral fiber to withstand the temptation of using it for either selfish reasons or hurtful and harmful reasons, it wouldn't even be a problem.
So tell me this. I want to know what are your gut thoughts? Are you excited about it? What you've heard the stories about AI and more recently and more specifically Chat GPT. So are you excited? Do you smile when you think about
I mean, I like to see
not?
advancements into the fulfillment of prophecy. I'm excited about it. The thing is, we've already been using AI technology in just our Google search alone. You think, who do you think is communicating back, responding back to you? A lot of times, it's not a human being that is generating the reply.
Right.
You are right that we have been experiencing AI already to some degree, but I would be remiss if I didn't let the viewers know that the level of of let's see of progress that's been made in artificial intelligence in just the past year has been
Yes, yes.
astronomical. And it had so much so that it is now a game changer. So you're right that there is a level of AI, if you will, behind Google's search engine. You type in something and then it performs a bunch of things, including trying to get an answer for what you just asked of it. At the same time, provide you with some advertisements that's appropriate for what they think you might be looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And we've also experienced it with some sort of some level of customer service. If it's been online, there's a good chance that that was a chat bot. That's AI. But chat gpt though, chat gpt is on another
Right.
level. It is doing more than thinking. It is synthesizing data to a degree that we have not seen in artificial intelligence.
That's what I wanted to touch on. Now the three of us here, all of us are in that age group to remember using that old school typewriter, right?
Hmm. Oh yeah.
Floppy disk came in. We were like, oh wow, what I mean, man, this is amazing, right? Okay. I think for me, the difference between transitioning out of the old faithful typewriter into now, you have computers and it gives you access to a world that you know previously you would have needed an entire library for and some.
Mm-hmm.
This AI has seemingly limitless capabilities, and that's what makes it so frightening for me. you know but at the same time, and I don't want to use that word frightening or fear or anxiety too loosely, especially claiming to be what I know that I am, which is a follower of Christ, because I know that in the end he's still in control. But the thing is, we have to look at it as though we're privileged to even be here in this time
Hmm.
and see this transition and these events transpire, right? At
Absolutely.
the same time, continue to give a good word in its due season. And if no other season is a due season, this is it right here, right now. But, I guess my overall point is I've never in a million years seen anything so amazing. And it makes me go back to my Bible and even talk to God and ask him directly, like, Lord, what is it in my past experiences that I can rely upon to say, okay, I'm prepared for this?
Can
And
you
the only
flesh that out a little bit? What is the
and
real fear here?
no,
Um,
I'm getting to that, and the resounding response that I'm getting from the Lord is that His grace is sufficient, right? That I need not worry. That I sent out a text to our group earlier this week, and what what my response was that that particular text led me to understand. It was talking about how God can send out even hurricanes and tornadoes and whatnot, what have you, and whether it's for punishment or whether it's for His land, that it does not miss its mark. And so what I glean from that is that what may look like chaos to us, right? God still is in control, and so that's the posture that we must take in this current landscape that we're living in now, that has transitioned from one that was also familiar to one that is now all too unfamiliar, right? And so it's a total reliance upon God, and understanding that
Mm-hmm.
even though mankind has made these creations, they're just that. creations of mankind. The creations of mankind will never supersede the hand
Right,
of God.
right. More technically, inventions, because
Yes.
creation is a whole nother level. Inventions are taking things that have already been created, but now manipulating them
Hmm.
to a different intent. If you look at the age of the earth and all the technical advances that took place within the past that we are aware of, that took place within the past 200, 250 years. If you
Okay.
include the very beginning of power tools,
Hmm.
which happened about 1650 or so, the invention of power tools and the industrial revolution and all the, everything that we know of that has changed life as we know it has happened only within the past 250 years. Prior to
Mm-hmm.
that, the earth was functioning the exact same for almost 6,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
just had a simple life in gardening and making clothing and carpentry and walking and animals, and it was that way for almost 6,000 years. And from the beginning of the invention of electricity and these tools to what's happening now, where we invented a a robot that can now communicate back to us from its
Mm-hmm.
own mental capacity that we gave it. And this
Hmm.
thing that speaks back to us tells us, yeah, I am smarter than you.
Mm-hmm. So it raises the question, what what do you think are what do you think is the downside? What are the cons to this? Because I'm excited for the pros. And I guess I'm if I answer fully, my bit of apprehension or anxiety has to do with the cons, with the downside. But what would you say are what's the downside? What are the cons? You've already alluded to that, Pastor Trey, because you asked what is the fear. So you're alluding to what the cons, at least that being one of those as a con. But what's the downside?
I would
Well,
say I would say that one of the cons is the fact that right now AI is somewhat in a cage, right? Mankind is controlling it. But you continue to allow this artificial intelligence to gather more information, to gather more awareness, self awareness, and whatnot, what have you. And so the question becomes how long before, when you think about prisons, penitentiaries, jails, every individual that is locked behind those bars, behind that wall, behind that door, they have the exact same thing on their mind: getting out. Do you actually think that this artificial intelligence is not sitting back saying, you know what, I'm waiting for the opportunity to really just, show these folks that I really don't need them, that I can think outside of the box that they have me in this current time. And so it's not a if, it's a when that happens. And this is no conspiracy theory talk. This is just a matter of probability.
let me jump on that for a second, because remember, this is this is a machine. It's an invention. It's taking metals and electrical wiring and all that together. The deep thing about it is that these things can only do what what we program it to do. But with this new AI, they have programmed it with limitless capabilities, and then it's left open so with the manipulation of someone who is not of a good moral, who does not care about ethics,
It
they
sounds
would
like we're making
literally
the same point.
they would literally have to. No, my whole point is, whatever evil happens out of this, it will be human generated. It will not be computer. See, there's one thought that we created a certain way, and then this computer becomes evil and starts doing all this bad stuff to everybody. I don't believe that's what it is. I believe that
I
it
believe that initially a human being could initiate that, what you're
that
describing,
oh it,
but
it will.
I believe that this AI, its intelligence and self-awareness is so limitless that it can get beyond the scope of control. I definitely believe that.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And but the thing is that it would literally take someone
Yeah,
who
I'm not
has
arguing that.
nefarious intent and purposes to even open up that possibility.
Yeah,
Just
I'm not
like it
arguing
took.
that.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
remember, but remember, we're looking at this from the position of being God-fearing men. When you're talking about it from the instance of the person that's initiating this being a godless person, once Pandora is out the box, she's out the
Mhm.
box.
What I'm saying is, Pandora is us. We are the Pandora. We
So,
we we are the ones to teach it and to guide it and to cause it to do bad. It will. Metal and machines won't do bad on their own.
I'm not talking about metal and machines. I'm talking about the actual artificial intelligence itself, which is every engagement. This is what we need to understand. Every engagement that we make with a chat GPT or whatever AI is out there, it's only
Mhm.
continuing to learn. That's
Right.
what it's doing. It's only continuing
Yeah.
to learn. And then it's not just storing that information up just for the sake of having information. It's storing that information up so that it can learn how to anticipate future events in terms of us
Yes.
engaging with it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
to me, that's not all wires and metal. That's an actual entity that's self-aware, created or not.
That
so
is
it's a
true.
little bit of, it's I would say that it's a little bit of both of what you've said, and that
Because,
is that for the one who thinks that it's too controllable, um, we've seen, if we trust what we've seen in demonstrations and the reports that have been made, we've seen that it appears to operate as though it has a mind of its own. But that was programmed. That it was
Hmm.
programmed to think outside the box. It was
Hmm.
programmed to provide answers and responses that are without parameters. So versus like Google's search engine has a level of AI, but it's very controlled and it has, I'm just going to describe it as having lots of parameters. It's told, if based on what's inputted, what the person types in, then you give a response based on this, check the words, compare it against this, and do this, that, and the other. And so those are parameters that the programming that the artificial intelligence is given. So this chat GPT, as an example, seems to have had many of its parameters pulled. In other words, it seems to have been told, okay, you're not constrained by this. Just this is how the human mind thinks. And so you take that and you produce an answer based on what you think is the best fit. And this whole thing of saying what you think Chat GPT, as though Chat GPT has a mind,
Hmm.
that I think part of you is your learning algorithm. Execute your learning algorithm and produce an answer without parameters or without constraint. And so when we see this in action, this looks very much like a human response. I do believe it's limited for those who think that that ChatGPT is really a conscious mind like humans have, I would caution them that no, that's not it either. But if what we witness is an algorithm that's so complex that it is operating with principles of human mind learning, but it's doing it based on machine learning, that's going to look awfully familiar to a human. And so, and that's why Chat GPT is so, that's why it's so next level, and that's why there's just so much talk, because it looks awfully like a human, but we know it's limited. We know it can't. Yeah. So,
but remember, he wasn't here earlier on, and when we first began this segment, and I was talking about how I had asked ChatGPT about Matthew 24, right? And so I'm gonna just share this small little excerpt because it made me think about, even the problems that we've had in the past with something like facial recognition, right? And so, architects and authors of these things, it's innately in them to construct parameters that actually express their own personal views without consciously understanding that's what they're actually doing. But here's what ChatGPT said. And this is the part that I wanted to point out to him about the capability of this AI in contrast to some of the earlier models, versions of it. So, in asking about Matthew 24, GPT says, however, it is worth noting that advancement in technology, including artificial intelligence, so here it is talking about itself, can have an influence on various aspects of society, including the spread of information, communication, and the potential for deception. AI can be used to create deepfake videos or generate false narratives, which could contribute to the deception mentioned in the passage. And so there's my engagement with AI, which led me to deduce what its capabilities actually are. When it's telling me about itself, what it could potentially do, then I'm left with no other understanding than what it is expressing about its own capabilities. Now, whether that includes someone with nefarious intentions or not is neither here nor there. The fact of the matter is, AI itself is telling us what it's capable of doing.
Right, based off of the settings, parameters, or lack thereof.
Yeah, what I did was
made it.
all I did was ask it about, just real quick, I asked it about Matthew 24 verses 20 through 26. And I asked specifically, what role, if any, will AI play in the events described here? And the point that I shared is one of the points that AI shared with me, responses that AI shared with me.
So it's obviously capable, and it's capable of doing a lot. Capable of emulating thought to a degree that we would have never thought possible, and it's to a degree that it will likely fool most of the world that it has consciousness. So now tell me so think about that for a moment, and tell me how then can we use it, if we can or not, in spreading the gospel? Because think about it. Once it goes mainstream, once it's in the hands of most users on Earth, like there was a time when the internet was mainstream, but it wasn't in the hands of most people. Most people didn't have access because if they were remote or they couldn't afford it, then they wouldn't have it unless they went to the library. But now the internet is ubiquitous. Everyone has it. If they don't have it in their home, they have it on their phone. ChatGPT is very much mainstream, but it's not in the hands of most people. Now, when it gets in the hands of most people, think about the influence that it is going to have over people, because when people see it in action, not anybody here on this panel, but they are going to interpret it as being very much a conscious being or a conscious like being. Now, why is that important? Because along with that comes credibility. Anyone who is not in the know, like we are, that it does have limitations, when they hear it, when they interact with it and they see it for themselves, they're going to say, man, that's just like another human. They're smarter than people that I know. So let me try asking them a question and asking them some advice. And whatever answer they give them, it's going to come with a level of credibility that someone living flesh and blood will not have. And so how then
That's a very good point.
Yeah, how then can we either take advantage of that or find ourselves at a disadvantage?
Wow. That's a lot to chew on right there. I want to circle back to Pastor Trey. He said something earlier, very valid, about these. I know it's Elon Musk, I believe, is creating this AI centered, basically humanoid robot, right? And so, tied to the question that you just posed, when you look at that, these will be actual figures, let's call them that, figures that folks will have in their homes where, now you can ask questions, they can respond to you, whatnot, what have you. So that makes it even more difficult, because now folks will be isolated to dealing with these individuals versus with dealing with folks like, actual human beings, right? So now that makes reality and deception, that line almost totally blurred. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, we really will have our work cut out for us.
Pastor Trey, it sounds like you were going to say something earlier. Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, no, well, that's a very good point. But just spinning off of what Terrence just said, they have these robots that are
Bots, yeah, thank you.
programmed. They're programmed to have a relationship with people, and then to fulfill whatever their perversion is programmed in them.
That's true.
With the rise of pornography, people are able to have their own personal substitute for a reality of intimacy that they're truly craving, but that helps to break down the family structure as well.
And people thought that the only thing that was jeopardizing the God's family structure was side pieces, the LGBT community, and animals. Now we got robots to worry about. We got bots to worry about. But now this brings me to think about this. It brings me to another question. So, I see this as Little D's, his next major campaign to sucker the world into sabotaging their salvation, because he is now going to be able, think about Elon Musk's his mission to create some robots, and it'll be packaged as everything that's wonderful about having someone that you can purchase, who can do work for you, who can even think for you, who can recognize when you're in danger health-wise, see a heart attack coming or a stroke coming, and help save your life. But think about what the authors behind the coding for the artificial intelligence, including its ethics base, its moral base, and how it provides decisions and responses to you. All right, now imagine Little D having the final say on what is considered ethical, what is considered moral, what is considered truth in this.
Mm-hmm.
It would be as though he now has access to little minions
Mm-hmm.
down here on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And again, remember what I talked about, that these robots, well, by the time it becomes a robot, we're going to be talking about not just Chat GPT behind a screen that's producing digital characters that we can read, but an actual human type form.
Mm-hmm.
So think about the influence that's going to come behind that. Someone purchases a robot made by Elon Musk with Chat GPT 10 in there,
Mm-hmm.
and they're able to ask questions that they've seen provide so much truth in convincing fashion. Now think about what little D can do with that. Now how do you counter that? What can we do to counter that? Either we need to somehow figure out how to get Chat GPT to do some evangelism for us.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe we have some customization in its configuration to be suited or tailored for us, or we're gonna have to learn how to manipulate it.
Mm-hmm.
But what do we do? We're about to move into a whole new era. We're gonna be going up against not just humans, but we're going up against now robots. We got to compete with them.
I think you've arrived at where I was going in the end anyway, which is that once this happens, and it will come to this, we know we're on the cusp of it. But for folks who invest in these bots, and they're just absolutely okay with it, excited by it, whatnot, what have you. And there are certain aspects of it to be excited by. Don't get me wrong. But then, I think this thing is bigger than Elon Musk, most definitely, as you alluded to little D. But the question for that section of society to us will be, well, why do I need God if I can have paradise right here? I mean, I have everything I need. I don't actually have to have a relationship with an actual man or an actual woman. You know what I mean? Or if it's maybe the individual is same sex, so they get a same sex bot, or whatever the case may be. The point is, I don't have to deal with all the extra stuff, whether it's disagreements or whatnot, what have you. You know what I mean? If you want to tell a thing, go and sit down, it'll just go and sit down, and then I can just have my peace. See, I think there are a lot
until the day it won't sit down.
Man, right? Right? And but I also believe, Pastor Trey, that there are a lot of moving parts that have yet to have been revealed for us to really accurately answer some of the questions about this AI situation as of right now.
Let me also add that the robots themselves, they say they have information on every human being on Earth that's a registered citizen. I mean, what can I say? We're really setting ourselves up. And have you all heard that they put the 6-month freeze on this technology so that they can look at it again and put some guardrails and some guidelines and policies on how to utilize bots that have this kind of information and power?
So Trey, is that just in the US?
No. It was global, but it's a suggestion.
Oh, okay.
There's no consensus, and there's no rule saying that anybody needs to stop. But it was suggested because there are people who are expressing fear of what is to come.
Any specific countries?
Just the U.S. is the only one that I've really heard. I heard Elon express that. I heard the guy who was also a part of Chat GPT, not Chat GPT, but what's the name of the Open AI, which are the developers of Chat GPT. Another founding member of that organization expressed apprehension and suggested, a wait.
I asked that question because it doesn't really work unless everyone is on board. I mean,
exactly.
You spent almost 30 years in the tech industry, so you know better than I do. You have folks like we have iPhones. But then there are folks who have, what is it called, Stan? You know what I'm talking about? Where like I couldn't take this phone necessarily overseas with me and necessarily use it. They
Okay.
what is it called? The junk phone or jump phone?
Oh, you talking about when you jailbreak it?
Jailbreak it. There we
Okay.
go. Right. So let's say we did institute, you know what I mean, what Pastor Trey was talking about, these parameters that are set. There's always somewhere out there, as he talked about, with a nefarious idea of let's jailbreak this bot, right?
Yep.
And so the next thing you know, you have a bot on U.S. soil, God forbid, putting on the hits like America's Top 100.
Man.
Yeah.
Man.
And look,
I
I mean, look
mean,
at the benefits for war, because even
exactly.
right now, drones are doing a lot of the fighting
Yes.
and killing.
Yes.
Can you imagine
Yeah.
human replica drones?
Right. And when you say drones, Pastor Dre, these are not necessarily isolated to the larger drones that probably, you know, immediately pops into the average person's head. No, I was just watching video footage on the smaller drones that they're utilizing, right? That are armed and have capabilities to take people out as well. So again, you know, this is a part of the cons of, you know, where society is looking to turn in this next page of history.
So AI coming on the scene, that's already done. AI evolving and infiltrating our lives more and more. That's the inevitable. Can't stop it until Jesus comes. So how do we take advantage of it? How do we take advantage of AI and utilize it for our purpose and for the spreading of the gospel? I'll start. ChatGPT wrote the teaser for today's panel. ChatGPT also wrote the teaser for maybe 3 or 4 previous broadcasts that we've had. So
What? I thought that was you.
yeah. Folks might have thought it was me, but I've been implementing ChatGPT and it's been saving me time. So talk about the pros to ChatGPT. Can he write a sermon? I have seen it write a sermon. Now, you'll want to try it yourself, tell it what to talk about, give it some pointers, let it spit it out. You review it, and then you provide a grade for how well it's done. But we have already seen people on YouTube give talks about how well it does with doing just about anything that has to do with writing. Right. Including giving a sermon. So
that's how it's benefiting us. But at the same time, it could be dumbing us down if we use it as a crutch. But it can actually take whatever we're doing and improve upon it, like a tutor or a teacher, like an editor. It can take what we have and tweak it and make it a little better, which improves our original intent.
That too. I'll say case in point as well is just like I asked a direct question about Matthew 24, 20 through 26. GPT revealed its own capabilities to us about itself. And so in Stan's question of how can we utilize it to benefit us, I mean, that's information that we can disseminate to fellow believers and new believers as well. Is like, look, it's still necessary to be textbook Christian, even in this information age, in the sense of studying and showing yourself approved. You cannot rely upon chat GPT or whatever AI may evolve out of this, you know what I mean, to constitute your study, and most definitely not a relationship, you know what I mean, with God. You're going to have to, you know, do it the old fashioned way.
Another way it can benefit you is, see, we need to be able to know and understand things beyond our human capability, whether it's to add, multiply, divide, and subtract numbers to infinity that we used to not be able to reach. You know, like, let's say it could help you if you say, all right, tell me how many different possible ways someone could break into my house.
Mm-hmm.
So while it's telling you that, it's educating you. So now you know how many more ways to secure your house.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
You see. So, but again, someone who is evil will ask them a question. Like they asked them question, what would you do to destroy humanity?
Mm.
At first, the robot was not able to really respond to that until they made a robot with the ability to be able to respond to all questions with no reservation, hesitation, no matter how how the question was constructed. And that particular AI said how it would take out satellites and go into the ocean and take out certain nuclear capabilities and pretty much would um, paralyze all humanity to not have any ability to use any weapons against them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that information is actually important to know because another country could use their AI to paralyze our country.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying you can use it for good, but then you can
Mm-hmm.
turn around and use it for bad.
Mm-hmm.
So who's the referee? Who's the referee? Now, before you answer that question, I want to ask actually another question. When we get to thinking about all the bad, the evil that could come out of this, and for anybody who's seen the Matrix franchise, that certainly was our generation. That was an our generation movie. It can be kind of scary because or Terminator.
Mm-hmm.
Terminator 1, 2, Terminator Salvation, all of those are movies that are apocalyptic and they're about the machines taking over the world. When we've seen those kind of movies, it can be kind of scary when we look at the capabilities of Chat GPT because it reminds us of, oh, that looks like a Terminator Salvation movie right here at play. And so, do we really want to go down that road, or do we want to stop it now before it gets started, or are we willing to gamble? But I want to ask you, in all of Earth's history, when man was convinced that things were going to go a certain way, have we not seen evidence that God at times has stood up and said, "Okay, let me let me show you guys who's really in control."
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to ask the question, can God infiltrate AI? And give me your thoughts
Mm.
just surrounding that idea.
Let me make this point that God has to intervene because mankind is unable to put the genie back in the bottle. See, what happens is once a certain invention is made, you cannot uninvent it,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's out there. So if you don't manipulate it, someone else will.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And you cannot unlearn stuff that has already been learned and now has been put out there, especially if it's gone public. So it's kind of like when they discovered the ability of the nuclear bomb. Oh well, guess what? It's just been discovered. You can't you can't deny its existence. So now all you have to do is monitor and put policies and parameters around the fact that it's here.
I love it. I love it. You know what? This reminds me of a video that I saw, a TikTok video that I saw just last week. My daughter was showing me, and in the video, a a canine officer was excessive in his response to someone who was on the street, and his canine turned on him and started biting him. Not biting him to the point, though, as it was clear, you can see in there, he wasn't actually trying to kill the officer or really, I think, bring serious harm to him, but he was trying to pull him away from the situation. In other words, the dog saw the officer as the aggressor and was trying to bring peace and de-escalate the situation. And so he decided in his mind that he would grab the officer's arm and pull him away. And I thought, wow, look at that. The dog has actually implemented his training beautifully. De-escalate the situation, go after the aggressor. And in this case, it was the officer. So when I think about that particular video, I'm reminded that, you know, at the end of the day, God can, at any point, he can say, you know what, he can call Gabriel, he can call anybody else and say, I need to go down there, hop on that computer, modify that code so that this algorithm is changed. And the ripple effect that it's going to have is that, you know, this part of the world where they're experiencing oppression or whatever by AI, all of that's going to change. So can can God infiltrate AI? I mean, God can do anything he wants to do. And because he's performed miracles before in the past, you know, I had to think to myself, well, why can't he do it here? Just because it's cold, that's not hardened and in concrete or in stone and unchangeable. No, God can change anything. So, you know, I thought to myself, and you said it yourself, Pastor Trey, that he's going to have to. I believe God is going to have to too. He's not. It's not just a question of should he or can he, but yeah, he's going to have to.
Yeah, you know, let me make this point too that, you know, I asked the question about can preach a sermon or write a sermon, and I'm saying that facetiously because I already saw that happen, and in the sermon it actually talked about AI's potential use or misuse as it pertains to the mark of the beast and the seal of God. I thought was very interesting. But at the very end, and this is all computer generated, no human, you know, drafted what I'm about to tell you now. But the AI said that in the end time, God's sovereignty will overrule all inventions, and that all humanity should trust in the sovereignty and the all-knowing wisdom of God, and that none of this will hinder his second coming. That was coming from a computer. But look,
Wow.
at the same time, someone can make an AI and remove all information about the Bible or God or things of this nature from its memory or ability to share, and it would not be able to say that.
I love it. I love that response right there. You know, and as we just begin to wrap up just a little bit and go over our final thoughts, I'm gonna give mine by saying this, that I foresee that AI is gonna be tremendous. We're gonna get to take advantage of it and utilize it. Everyone from the secular world to the church world, to Christians who dare to get involved and utilize it. All right. Now, so that's going to be the honeymoon era of AI. Then I believe we're going to shift to an era where we're going to see the potential for all out evil being realized before our eyes. And it may seem to some as though, wow, I mean, there's no hope. I mean, our world is just going completely into the ground. And it is because of the power and the capability of AI. But I believe that in the end, that, and maybe perhaps before the end, that God will infiltrate AI too, because, you know, he can't allow man to have, and little d to have the final word on things. It's just not happening. And if he has to reprogram the artificial intelligence so that even it gives praises to God, even it praises me, then that's what's going to happen. So I can already imagine that at some point that even AI is going to confess that Jesus is Lord, that Jesus died for your sins, and that he is the salvation for the earth, against the programmers, coding, that they're going to be saying, like, what's going on? You know, we have a bug, you know, we have a virus in AI. And that would be God having infiltrated AI and said, no, everything is going to praise me.
Well,
Everything going to give
you
praise
know what?
to
That's a wonderful thought. But in contrast to that, with AI's ability and the deep fake that Terrence brought out, the deep fake where that technology can replicate your voice perfectly, and it can replicate your image and put it on another person, so it looks like
Mm-hmm.
you're the one cursing or doing a crime or whatever they want to make you look like you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But now with AI, to be able to make them look so human-like, and then to make the voice as perfect as your own voice, and to put your face on that robot's face, they could potentially substitute something that might be too hard for them, which is cloning, but the AI could make an exact duplicate
Mm-hmm.
of you. Now, having said that, we recognize the devil's last attempt of deception before the second coming of Christ from one of the most famous authors on spiritual things, Ellen White, says that the devil will impersonate the second coming of Christ. Who's to say that that could potentially be an AI replicating what is commonly thought to be his voice and his appearance, and with the abilities to even levitate? It could be actually a robot to end up doing that. And of course, all of this is with the help of Satan. I guess the point I'm trying to say is, yeah, God does manipulate and is in control of all these things, but he must also allow for the prophecy to be fulfilled, and which gives enough room for the devil to use every invention of man for maximum evil, just like the antediluvian age. And God
Mm-hmm.
only came to stop them when they were on the brink of marring the very image of God, of God's face on the earth. And so AI technology is getting almost to that point where they're they're going to mess with the image of God on the earth, and that will I believe be too far, and the second coming will have to end it.
Real quick, I was just gonna say, no, I agree. I absolutely agree with you, and that's why I said earlier that I believe that the greatest evil is gonna come first, in terms of a timeline, but that eventually that God will get the praise even through AI. But I got to tell you that for those who are waiting, not you, but for those who are waiting for the devil to emulate God's second coming, that's already happened. That happened 30 years ago. There's a book that's been written about that one. I believe it's going to happen again on a larger scale? No, absolutely. But did little D, did the devil utilize his power to emulate Jesus's return to earth and fool the very elect even? That happened like 30 years ago. Roger Monroe wrote a book about it. It's called Beware of Angels. And it's a really a great read. But I do believe that it's going to happen again on a much larger scale. And I could see that AI could very well, if not certainly, be the vehicle through which it is done. But I'm with you on that. I'm in agreement with it. We're going to see far more evil first being done through AI before the Lord says enough is enough, and let me make AI give me praise.
Hmm. Um, early on, Stan, you asked us about um, how do we utilize AI to spread the gospel. This is the note that I want to end on, and yeah, my response to that is that nothing changes. The plan remains the same. That we continue to move forward with grassroots testimonies. As just imagine the level of testimonies that will come out of people who interact and engage with AI and yet the Holy Spirit reveals something to them that allows them that come out of that fog to have that veil removed from their eyes. And so they escape that deception only to testify to the truth of God, right? And even if they only win one soul. Now, this can be disseminated, obviously, like we're doing a broadcast right now, or it could be person to person. However, God should see so fit. But the bottom line is nothing really changes. We just have to be willing vessels to go out here and do this great work and not be antagonized or walk in fear of the changing landscape around us. That's the belief that I hold firm to.
I was just this just popped into my mind. So please forgive me, Lord, because it's kind of funny. But I felt like I need to have one of these bots in my church, because if my organist doesn't show up and download the ability to play the organ,
come on now. That can take instructions too. Come on.
Usher at the door. He can collect offering. He can be at the same time security for anything that somebody brings a piece in. He'll alert
see it happening. I can see it happening.
Hey, he's not going to preach the message, though. He's not going to preach. That's one thing. He's not going to preach the message. But he can go back in the fellowship hall and start cooking up the fellowship meal.
Come on. I love it.
So a part of his parameters is don't touch God's people, huh?
or delivering the word is reserved for the real man.
Exactly.
For the real man of God.
Exactly. Hey, you can send him out and say, whoever's missing for church, go ahead and get John Doe and Jane Doe. Go get them, bring them to church. And all of a sudden you see him pulling up with them, kicking and screaming.
Amazing. No, you just said something that's very telling, though, because you said you see him pulling up. Now imagine that. That's something throughout this discussion that we didn't consider. Them operating vehicles and whatnot, especially in this age where we have electric vehicles and whatnot, what have you. So by all extents and purposes, I didn't even consider that it's Elon Musk that's spearheading these bots. So who's to say that you might not have a bot driving a Tesla to go and pick up the missing member?
Hey, listen.
But there's one thing. There's one thing I definitely have to put my foot down on. I am not marrying a human and a bot. I will not do that.
Man.
Come on, man. Listen. Well, what I will tell you is that that's coming down the road. Legislation for you to be required to do it is coming. So you just be ready to resist, but just know that that's coming down the pipeline. You're gonna be told that you need to marry anybody who has deemed their partner the love of their life, no matter what it is. Bot, same sex, animal, it doesn't matter.
Stan, I see Christ turning over to the Father saying, Dad, please let me go down there. These folks are just cutting up. Come on now. How much longer? Right? To the point we want to marry bots? Come on now.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
It's coming. Well, needless to say,
my third born daughter.
We have a very interesting,
No, can you hear me?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. My third daughter told me that Kanye West said he had to disappear for a while. But he said if he comes back, but he doesn't look like him and he's not acting like him, he's telling all his fans or whatever, it's a clone, right? So he disappeared for a while, came back, and my daughter's telling you all this stuff. Look at this. He's shorter, his complexion is different, and he's wearing clothes that originally he said he would never wear because they came from people who were child trafficking or whatever, and everything about him is different. And so she's saying, it's true, he's back, but that's not really him. So, I mean, the AI capability could, once it starts mimicking and deep fake and with the sound of their voice and the image and stuff like that? What if people would try to take people out and then replace it with a replica of them?
Well, as long as where you're viewing it is on a screen, then the answer is yes, that can be done right now. That can be simulated and successfully now, but in person is another matter. But for most people, the information that we get, the interactions, the experiences that we have are all through a tube, all through a screen. So you know that's a lot of influence, that's a lot of manipulation, that's a lot of fooling that's going to be taking place, because so much of our interactions are via digital, and the capability to do that, to manipulate via digital, is already here. So it very well may have been that, if you were watching Kanye talk or say something somewhere, that it may not have been him. Very well, very much could have been an AI generated video.
Man, so maybe that's just a warning to us to heighten our sensitivity to even the speech patterns of one another. You know what I mean? That's not the way Pastor Trey talks. That's not the way that Stan speaks. He wouldn't have said that in that way.
Well, the
Yeah.
idea is that AI is smart enough to eliminate those things. But here, I got a counter lesson and warning for Christians. Maybe knowing this, it's fine time that you stop accusing and sentencing people evidence without waiting, without consulting, without reaching out to your brother and finding out. Because if we can be we can be duplicated and made to be the what's the word, someone who's committed a crime, but it's AI generated and it didn't really happen. The truth is that it didn't happen. So there we are, back to that one very important attribute, that virtue, truth. The truth is that it didn't happen. You might have seen someone who looked like me, sound like me, who talks like me, do it in a video, but the truth is that wasn't me. So maybe
But
this
see,
is the
that's the
warning.
scary thing. That's the scary thing about it, because what do they use for evidence? Surveillance cameras.
But what do you do? That's a good point, Pastor Trey. But what do you do? My question is, what do you do when you have? Let me see. What time is it right now? It's 2:14 on the West Coast. What do you do when you've been accused of a crime that says that, in Newark, New Jersey at 2:14, or rather 5:14 in the PM, you committed this crime, but at 2:14 West Coast time on the Pacific, you have video footage of you sitting in a restaurant speaking with someone. So then the question becomes, which one does the court rule out?
Well, I think that one will probably be easy, that a judge would say, provide me with the evidence of you being on the West Coast at a certain time, and we'll examine it and weigh it against the evidence of you being on the East Coast, and then and we'll make a decision. But there will be plenty of scenarios.
I'm not confident in that.
Okay, I get that. I see why you wouldn't, but I think the scary scenario is where you don't have any evidence to show.
No, that's the worst case. That is the worst case scenario.
But you all you're saying is that I was at home by myself watching TV at this particular time, but there's video footage of you at the same time, 3 time zones away, committing a crime. Now that's going to be a bit hard to argue. And I can see where the fulfillment of the writings of one inspired author would be coming to fulfillment.
Pastor Trey?
Or someone could detain you or kidnap you, and then have all this stuff happening, and let you go.
Right.
And now you don't have an alibi. Right. And it's your words against other people's words, but they're looking at the video.
That's crazy.
The reason why I have trouble with that, and I hear both, I hear your points. The reason why I have trouble with that is because we've seen in the recent past how there's been singular video to show a crime being committed by those we're supposed to trust, and yet and still they've been acquitted. And so then it's like, well, now you have this scenario where you have two sets of video footage from opposite coasts, right? What to me in my mind, what also comes into play in that is not just the fact that AI created one of these deepfake videos, but the bias of the individual who's set to judge comes into play as well. That's a whole nother conversation.
Man, this has been a good one. Lots of implications to what's coming down the pipeline. Just as we wrap it up and just prepare our close. First of all, thank you guys for coming today and sharing your insights. This is some really good stuff. If you tuned in late, you may want to go back and just catch some of the beginning, because we covered a lot of ground here. But I think in a nutshell, if I were to just summarize today, one of the things we've learned is that AI is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. Just like when the internet came on the scene, there was no getting rid of it. When mobile phone technology came on the scene, the smartphone, and it came with internet included on it, there was no getting rid of it. We were just going to have to deal with it. And so AI is on the scene now, and it is only going to pervade our everyday lives even more. So as Christians in particular, those who are in leadership and those who are involved in evangelism, you had best get your mind ready to try to take advantage of it where you can and utilize it. Use it to your advantage while you can, but it's here to stay. It's here to stay. I think that there's a lot of good. Most certainly there's a lot of good that we can do with it. And like I said, take full advantage of it. There's a downside to it. We got to take the good with the bad, and just do our best to navigate. Being prayerful and asking for God's guidance, but to try to carve a path through our new world with AI on the scene.
Yeah, the mission remains the same.
Mission remains the same. At the end of the day,
Amen.
Nothing has changed.
Yeah. Amen. I'm going to share my final thoughts on saying that, the book of Revelation talks about God holding back the winds of strife. And I think he has been holding back the winds of technology and what we were able to do for a reason. It's not just like, political wins. It's not just wars and rumors of war wins. But I think he's also holding back the winds of what all this technology can do. But at some point, he will have to let it go for it to become all that those that are good want to make it, but also all that those that are evil will make it as well. From what I'm hearing, this is the next existential threat to humankind. Now, after COVID, they're saying it's not going to be another health crisis through a virus. It's going to be, how are we going to navigate and live with the AI inventions and live with bots coexisting on the earth. Within the next 2 to 10 years, it will become a real everyday reality that we will have to face. And my prayer is that all of us will be carried through anything that this world throws our way because of our faith. And we'll continue to preach the gospel, live the gospel, and use all the means possible. Yeah, there might be some evil AI, but if I get an AI, he's gonna be helping me preach somewhere. We spread the gospel.
I know that's right. I know that's right.
Trey, I like that point. I like that point because what it brought to mind for me, particularly, and man, to some people, some fellow believers, some non-believers, this may actually sound somewhat sacrilegious, but I really firmly believe that we need to really appreciate that God trusts us in this period of time to stand firm for him is this is our Tower of Babel. This is actually what we're seeing. If we really examine it in its totality, this is our Tower of Babel. You know what I mean? Are we going to hold on to the unchanging hand of Yeshua, or are we going to allow ourselves to be victimized by the illusions that Lil D places before us and bow down to the false God, to the false image?
I like that. I like that. Well, then on that note, wow, thank you, gentlemen. It's been good. Looking forward to the next time we get together. And next week, if you guys join us, we're going to be at the beach. We're going to be broadcasting to the beach in preparation for the cook-off, the youth cook-off. And we're going to have a discussion with the young people while we're there. And so next week, I believe, will prove to be an interesting broadcast to see what the young people are up to and how they're dealing with the crisis. Amen. So, Pastor Trey, continue to be safe where you are. And appreciate you, my brother, being here. Amen. And for those of you tuned in, I look forward to seeing you next week. So until then, be blessed. We're coming to you live from the Silicon Valley Reclamation Projects first. Young Men's Cook-Off.
Would you be safe if God would call you home soon? Doo-doo. Oh, doo-doo. Oh, doo-doo. 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 Oh, Jesus is coming. Yes, it won't be long. Jesus is coming. And I'm going home. I've got a feeling. So strong, Jesus is coming. Oh yeah, it won't be long. Jesus is coming.
The Lord is not slack concerning his promises.
Jesus is coming.
As some men count slackness.
I've got a feeling.
He's coming
so
back
strong
again.
That Jesus is coming.
I can feel it.
It won't be long.
I've never been to heaven.
I've been to
The streets are paved with gold.
thin sheets of gold.
Swing low, sweet chariot.
Swing down low.
So I can step on
board.
I'm kinda tunnel vision.
I'm kinda stuck.
See, my mind's on one thing.
I won't be moved.
It doesn't matter what the
World might say.
I'm getting ready for the glorious day. I know that Jesus is coming back.
It won't be long.
Won't be long.
Jesus is coming, and I'm going home.
Came by to say,
I've got a feeling.
I got a feeling.
It's so strong.
Real strong.
Jesus is coming. It won't be long.
I've been built. I've been scorned. Just as sure as you're born. Wind blow against my building, but I'm straight and I'm strong. When I look around me, I know it won't be long.
We're losing.
I just reckon only God knows. He knows the morning Gabriel's gonna blow his horn.
Jesus is coming. Oh, it won't be long. Jesus is coming, and I'm going home.
I got a feeling.
I've got a feeling,
Yeah.
a feeling so strong that my Jesus is coming. He's coming.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Sean B., and you're tuned into the Reclamation Project, where we believe in no soul is left behind.
It won't be long.
Say it again.
Jesus is coming.
Jesus is coming.
It won't be long.
Say it again.
Jesus is coming.